And so that you will all stay with me, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to tell you that the anti-vaxxers appear to be right, but then I'm going to talk about some why, right? I'm going to give you some details why. Usually most of you disappear when I talk about anything vax related, but I'm only going to talk about how we analyze it, but I'm going to start with an admission, okay? Just so you'll stay around. At the moment, and anything could change, but at the moment, the anti-vaxxers appear to be the ones who are the most right and the ones who are the biggest winners. Did I say that directly enough? Now, do you accept that as a direct statement? Right? Are you okay with that? That at the moment, with what we know right now, it would look like the people who didn't get vaccinated are the lucky ones or the right choice. Right? Could be one or the other. But wouldn't you say that so here's their situation. Let's compare it. I got vaccinated, reluctantly, and I waited as long as possible and blah, blah. But, so I had no bad outcomes. I got a little bit of, Omicron, few days of discomfort, no big deal. So now I have natural immunity from the Omicron. But I also have this, let's say not perfectly understood vaccination thing inside me forever. So how happy am I that we're sort of on the other side of the pandemic, I would say. But I have this extra nagging thing in my body. Am I happy? Well, I'm not unhappy, but I could be a lot happier, right? My perfect situation would be natural immunity and no vaccination in my body. So that's not the best situation for me, right? Best situation would be somebody who did not get vaccinated, got a little Omicron, or maybe even a worse one, but recovered. Now you've got natural immunity, and you have no vaccination in you. Can we all agree that that was the winning path? Everybody? Is there anybody who would disagree with that? That based on what we know today, which could change, I'm going to stay open to reversing this decision if anything changes. But at the moment, every day we get more bad news about the vaccinations, the shots, but we don't get better information, right? Every day it's just negative. One of the biggest wild cards was this long COVID. And anecdotally, it looks like the vaccination side effects appear to be bigger than the long COVID. Now, I don't know that to be true. And if I learn later that it's not true, I might reverse my decision. But at the moment, just anecdotally, I'm not hearing tons of people saying I had bad COVID experience that's lingering. They do exist, Dr. Drew being, a notable person with that case. I think, did Dr. Malone say he had some long COVID? I can't remember. I think he did. So there is some notable, we know that both exist. There is something that people identify as long COVID, and there are things that people identify, correctly or not, as vax injury. But it does seem like the vaccination we hear more about than the long COVID. So, so that looks like a win. Now, here is the most interesting part to me, right? And first of all, is everybody accepting that that's where the data is at the moment? That the smartest, happiest people are the ones who didn't get the vaccination and are still alive. Now, so if I compare myself to an anti-vaxxer today, I would say the anti-vaxxers have a right to be happier than I do. I want to make sure that I'm not leaving any wiggle room for myself. Have I? Have I said as clearly as possible they're the happy ones right now? And have a reason to be, completely. Right. All right. Having said as clearly as possible that the anti-vax people seem to be the winners, I want you to hear that clearly. The anti-vax people appear to be the winners. But I'd like to give you a little lesson on how to properly analyze things, what to compare to what, right? VAERS report, historically, X number of people reported bad vaccination-related things for different vaccinations. As soon as the jab became available, the COVID jab, the VAERS report skyrocketed to levels never seen before. Now, this is a comparison of the COVID vaccination to prior vaccinations. Now, the VAERS report, of course, is not a study, but suppose it's all true. What would that tell you? What it would tell you is that the COVID vaccination is way more dangerous than prior vaccinations. So far, so good. That, even if it's inaccurate, it's so different that it's definitely telling you something. Would you agree it's definitely telling you something, and something you should totally pay attention to? All agree? But is this the right comparison? No, this is the wrong comparison. It's the right comparison for looking for a danger signal. That's the right way to use it. It's the wrong comparison to tell you if you should or should not take the vaccination. Here's the correct comparison for that. It's comparing the outcomes of the vaxxed versus the unvaxxed, or the shot versus unshot, because you don't want to call it a vaccination. In the early days, this is the data, whether it was true or not, we don't know if it's true. We don't trust any data. But the early alpha-delta situation where the virus was more deadly, it seemed that the unvaxxed were having worse outcomes. Now, I'm not saying it's true, but you'd all agree that's what we were presented with, right? This is the correct comparison. It might not be the correct data, and it might not be the correct decision, but it's the correct comparison, right? You don't compare COVID in a pandemic to other vaccinations not in a pandemic. That doesn't make any sense at all. It's just a signal to look deeper. That's all it is. This is where you look. Once this gives you the signal, then you look over here. And this was telling us the opposite of what this was scaring about us. But this was the correct comparison. Were they lying to us about the data? Were people being overcounted and or undercounted? Yes. Is there any pandemic data that you should trust? No. So I'm not saying this is accurate. I'm saying that was the context in which all these smart people got vaccinated. Would you agree with that? Would you agree that the context of which all these smart people got vaccinated, from Musk to Dr. Malone, etc., was when it looked like there was a big difference between the outcomes? Even if it was wrong, and even if it didn't count side effects, right? So that's where we were. So it's easy to see how smart people would have gotten vaccinated. But correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be a little out of date. Is it true that the current information we're getting, which is no longer the deadliest virus, it's Omicron, that we're seeing this happen, which is this is reversed? We're seeing more of the people with vaccinations who are having bad problems. Can you confirm? Can you confirm that the situation has reversed, at least in the data, from when all those smart people got vaccinated? So the same smart people who got vaccinated are not getting boosted. I don't think Musk got boosted. I don't think that Dr. Malone got boosted. I know I didn't get boosted because I'm now in this context. Now, what does this tell you? Is this telling you that that getting vaxxed is more dangerous than not being vaxxed? No, it's not telling you that. That's the wrong comparison. See, it's always a comparison problem. It's always the same problem. It's the wrong comparison. Because at this point, the people who are getting vaccinated are old, frail people, right? If the old, frail people didn't get vaccinated, they'd probably be dying at twice that rate, according to the experts who might be lying to us, who knows, right? So that's not my opinion. So what you should compare here is that these old, frail people, do not compare them to the unvaxxed, compare them to the old, frail people who didn't get vaxxed, right? So you should only look at old, frail people compared to old, frail people. But at this point, every old, frail person is vaxxed. Am I right? Everybody who was old and frail got pushed into it because, why? Because they're old and frail. If you're old and frail, do you think you put up a fight about the vaccination? Not a chance. No. Grandma at 80 years old did not have a choice of getting a vaccination. I mean, on paper she did, but she didn't, right? So basically, you're just vaccinating the shit out of the people who are going to die tomorrow anyway. You should see this. This doesn't tell you the vaccinations don't work. It also doesn't tell you they do. It literally doesn't tell you anything because it's not a comparison that makes sense. You're comparing healthy people to frail people. Under every situation, the frail people are going to be dying, even if you did all the right stuff. You could do everything right for this group, and they're still going to die 10 times more than healthy people. Does that make sense? So I'm going to try to have it both ways. I'm going to try to have it both ways. The anti-vaxxers clearly are the winners at this point, and I think it'll probably stay that way. And I don't want to put any shade on that whatsoever. They came out the best. They have the winning position. But if you think they got there by good analytics, that didn't happen. No, that didn't happen. Because you could analyze it correctly and make the wrong decision. Would you agree? Would you agree that you could analyze it with the best analytical capabilities, but all the data was bullshit? The data was just bullshit. So there wasn't really anything that we knew or could guess. So my take was always this. It's going to be a guess because I don't know what long COVID would do to me. And I still don't. But I also didn't know what the vaccination would do to me. And I still don't. So to me, it was two unknowns that were both enormous, and both of them could have ended your life or your life quality. So I waited as long as possible to reduce the risk that something quick would happen. I looked at people in my category, and then I did what people in my category were typically doing. Am I glad? No. I'm not glad. No, because as things turned out, the unvaccinated have a current advantage. Because they feel better. The thing they're not worrying about is what I have to worry about, which is, I wonder if that vaccination 5 years from now. No, not regret. All right, let me stop you right there. Did you hear me say I regretted anything? Did anything sound like regret? No. Also, if the data had gone the other way, I would not ask the anti-vaxxers to regret it either. Do you know I would not, if it had gone the other way, if the data had, let's say, amazingly said this was just a miracle drug and everybody who didn't get it was a big old dope, would I be telling you should regret not getting it? No, I wouldn't. Because you didn't know. And I didn't know. We were just doing the best we could. But it does turn out that the heuristic or the rule of thumb that everything the government does is bad for you, it turns out it worked this time. It worked this time. Because really the anti-vaxxers, I think, were really just distrustful of big companies and big government. That's never wrong. It's never wrong to distrust government. It's never wrong to distrust big companies. But it wasn't necessarily right, right? Every now and then, a big company will produce a good product at a good price, and nobody dies. Hey, it happens. Every now and then, our government does something right. Sometimes it happens, right? So if you just took the position, let's just distrust everything the government did, well, you won. You won. You won completely. Right? Now, as far as I know, I feel like I'm on a shrinking piece of ice floating in the ocean, right? Somehow I got trapped on a little iceberg in the ocean. It's just like shrinking as I'm floating into the sun. I am currently in the only remaining category of people who might have made the statistically right choice by accident, totally by accident. Because people in my age group, it looks like maybe there was still some benefit. Not necessarily to me personally, which is why I made the wrong choice, or the suboptimal choice. Wrong implies that I analyzed it wrong. Suboptimal means, you may have analyzed it right, but you didn't end up in the right place. I did not end up in the right place. Agree? You would all agree with that, right? I did not end up in the right place. The right place would be natural immunity, no vaccination. But to say that I got there by making bad decisions, that's a completely different argument. I think the people who understood how to make decisions all ended up in the wrong place because they knew how to make good decisions. Just the data was, unfortunately, not good. So what does that tell you about intelligence? That if all of your data is non-credible, intelligence doesn't help you. That should be your conclusion, is that intelligence didn't have any role in this. But instead, the people who ended up in the right place are enjoying the feeling that they were the smart ones and that it was obvious all along. And here's where I'm going to make a departure from my past. If you're one of those people, that has to feel really good, doesn't it? How many of you are feeling like that righteous, oh my God, I was right from day one? That has to feel great. I think you should enjoy it. And so I'm going to say, enjoy it. And you can enjoy it at my expense. You can even enjoy it at my expense. But don't be inaccurate. Don't be inaccurate about me. But just enjoy your feeling. It might be my opinion that what we've proven beyond any question whatsoever is that your intelligence and your wisdom and your experience had nothing to do with your decisions and that they were not, that being smart and being well-informed just didn't help at all. Didn't help at all. But you should take victory and I should take defeat. We can agree on that, right? That my position is now the weakest and your position has gone from the weakest to the strongest, and that we can just say that's true. Now, this is how I try to protect myself from cognitive dissonance. The way I try to do it is by being wrong without hesitation when it looks like that's the case. The people who didn't get vaxxed are absolutely in the winning position. We all guessed, you guessed right. And when we guess right, what do we always do? We say it was because we were smart. You don't think I would have said the same thing? I hope I wouldn't have. Like, my hope for myself is if it turned out that getting vaccinated was just unambiguously the right thing to do, and let's say it cured your cancer at the same time. That's not the case, but suppose I had been right. I like to think I would have told you I guessed. I like to think I would have said, I got everything right, but honestly, it was a guess because I couldn't have known. I don't know if I would. Maybe I would be doing what you're doing, like, dancing on the graves of the people who got it wrong. I might be. But I like to think I wouldn't be like you. But you win. You win. You win. You are the winners. You are the winners. All right, let me say that part with no ambiguity. You won. You won. I don't know if somebody says you got it right for the wrong reason. No, that would be too strong. I'm not going to say you got it right for the wrong reason, because your reason was you didn't trust the big companies and you didn't trust the government. How is that wrong? That was exactly right. No, you didn't get it wrong. You didn't get it right for the wrong reason. It was impossible to know, but your heuristics worked, and my analytics did not. Fair? All of my fancy analytics got me to a bad place. All of your heuristics, don't trust these guys, it's obvious, totally worked. Now, there may be a class of people who used your heuristic, did not get vaccinated, and are dead. Do you think any of those exist? Do you think there's anybody who did the same thing some of you did, most of you probably, and said, no, I don't trust the government, did not get vaccinated, and then they died? But they're not here to be part of the conversation. So you can take total victory because the people who would argue with you are already dead. So there's nobody here to call you wrong. I'm here and I'm calling you right. So the people who are here are more likely to say, yeah, I guess you got it right. The people who would disagree with you are all dead. So they're not here to argue with you.